Welcome to the Movie Pro Podcast.
This podcast may contain rambling, foolishness, and spoilers. Duh.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Movie Pro with me, Martin Cowan, and...
Ladies and gentlemen, I have an apology to make.
Actually, he does. He does have an apology. Let's take it away.
Do you know what I found out? I found out about the mic issues when I turned on the podcast, and then there was a silence, and then Martin's voice appeared, and I was like, "Oh, what's he got to say?" And then I went, "Oh, darn it!" I didn't know that was happening. Essentially, how I record is I have an iPhone and I use very professional. I have an iPhone and I use the iPhone microphone. And obviously, the way I was sat last week, it kept tapping off my face, which I didn't know. So yeah, I apologize for the audio quality for last week. It was not good. I had to skip through my own news. And it was a bumper news week, I'm pretty sure, last week.
Yeah, we did have quite a bit of news. So there we go. We've had our official apology from the man himself.
There you go.
And we can put it behind us. We can move on.
Yeah.
No hard feelings.
Oh dear. In fact, do you know what? See, if I hadn't... This is how you know that I actually listened to the thing, because I wouldn't have noticed otherwise. And we've not really had any feedback from people saying anything, so...
No. But yeah, no, I did message you saying so, but also I knew you were, because you work night shift, you wouldn't be able to. But when I was editing it, I was like, you're not gonna see this in time. But by the time I
didn't get a message.
Look back in your messages, you'll see it.
What, on Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have a look.
Because I think I also sent you something else after that, so you probably just missed it.
Right.
But anyway, I did realise by this point, he's not going to see this in time to do anything about it. So I was just like, I'll just give an apology and upload it.
Also, when I listened to it, I did message you, but we were also talking about something else at the same time, and it didn't register. Like, you didn't say anything about me saying back to you. I went like, "Oh, audio quality."
Yeah,
I think we were talking about something else. I think we were probably talking about football, which we'll not talk about.
Which is highly likely. We'll not talk about that now, because this is not a podcast for sport. No. We will talk about that in our own private time. Yeah. Right now, we are here to talk about movies, cinema, and
how are you
other
anyway?
Things related. How am I?
Yeah.
I'm all right. Yeah, cool. I'm okay.
Good.
I've had better weeks, but at the same time, I've had worse weeks.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I know. What about yourself? How have you been? I don't. When was the last time I seen you, to be in person?
Last Friday.
That's a long time for us. Normally, I see you every couple of days at least.
4 days, that.
Wow.
But those are literally the 4 days that I work, so...
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well,
but,
there you go. There you have it.
Yeah, so I'm okay. Had a tax letter through the door this morning.
So you did. I saw that. I saw that.
Saying I've paid too little tax. And I owe the HMRC 150 quid.
Thankfully you've got all this money saved so that you can easily pay it.
Well, yeah, but apparently they just take it and put it onto your next paycheck. So I'm just paying extra tax for the rest of the year. But what's really annoying is, so I looked on the back, because obviously it gives you your tax calculations. So it had it had a couple months when I was at a previous job as a carer, which they paid tax on. It had my current job, but also in between then I worked for my mum and dad. Now, not outing my mum and dad, but I was told I wasn't going through the books. So
great thing to announce on on a public podcast.
So, well, it doesn't matter because it turns out I had been going through the books, but my dad didn't take any tax off me for it. So I think that's what's kind of put me over the edge because it was £800. They ended up paying me. I only worked there for 2-3 months or something like that, and it was like little shifts here and there. But I'm raging.
Well, can I just say, Nigel and Janice, shame on you.
They know. They know as well. I've told them. My dad came around this morning because my brother had to take his car to the garage. My car needs to go into the garage. That's going in on that's going in on Friday. So our plans on Friday, it may rely on my car. But if we're going during the day, then
we
can get the bus. No,
Oh,
it's fine. It's fine. Keep it in. The people can know.
By the way, what we're doing, on Friday, how we're going to be doing something.
But anyway, my mum and dad. Well, my dad came round and I told them off. So he actually was going to give me the money then and then. He took out a wad of cash and he was going to be like, "Oh, just pay this at the bank." And I was like, "No, it's fine. They'll take it off my wage." So I think it's going to work out as an extra maybe £15-20 on tax. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's good of them to do that, but like you say, the whole issue obviously is like, as your employer, if they're putting you through the books, they need to pay you properly. They need to pay the tax properly, If they're just I
don't think they thought that I was going through the books either.
Right.
So I don't know what's happened there. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, money's money, and it will come out through.
End of the day, money's money.
Yep. Just means I'll be getting paid a little less over the next year. But like you say, I do have some stuff stashed away.
And by stuff, you mean money.
I mean money, yes. Anyway, let's move on. Let's
into the movie news. News.
Red hot movie news. There is not much of it this week, Martin. I tell you this. It's almost as if
is it a barren week?
It's barren. It's a very barren landscape. A lot of trailers. But I do have something else I would talk about after, as well. So I'll just crack into the news. So Zack Snyder is making he's made a horror film for Netflix called Army of the Dead.
Cool.
And it was it's already filmed. Everything's done, but they've had to do a little bit of jiggery pokery.
Why is that?
Because one of its stars, Chris D'Elia, has been accused of allegedly harassing underage girls, and whatnot. So they have.
So he's been accused of jiggery pokery.
Yes. Oh gosh, that's such a horrible way to put it. But he's been what we're now going to call Kevin Spacey'd. He's been replaced in a movie by somebody else. That's what I mean by being Kevin Spacey. Because obviously, in All the Money in the World, Kevin Spacey was replaced by Christopher Plummer. And in this film, Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, Chris D'Elia is going to be replaced by Tig Notaro, who you won't know her name, but you'll definitely recognize her face.
What's she been in?
I'll tell you right now. But I was listening to another podcast who reported it on this on Monday, so it's not the freshest news. She was in Instant Family.
As who? The mum?
No. She was one of the, how the care workers?
Uh-huh.
She was the more butch-looking one of them. So
right,
that's
okay.
And other than that, she's been in a film. The only other film that I've seen her in is Walk of Shame, which I know you haven't seen.
No, I've not seen
and
that.
I don't remember much of that film either because it was a while ago I've seen it. So that's happened. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce her name. But there you go. That's that.
Cool. That's that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of trailers released this week. I've kind of made a point of not watching trailers. I know that's really bad, but hey ho. So there was one for a new film with Robert De Niro called The War with Grandpa. It's going to be a It's going to be a family fun film. So it
About
stars
what about? Do you know?
about grandpas. I don't know. It's just appeared on my feed there. So it's going to start. It's actually got a really good cast. Robert De Niro, Christopher Walken, Uma Thurman, Rob Riggle, and Jane Seymour. So a few big names in there. As well as that, we also have had a trailer for Enola Holmes, which is going to be the Sherlock Holmes spin-off starring Millie Bobby Brown and Henry Cavill. So that's another trailer, and we've had another wee segment in the past few hours of the New Mutants cast in under a minute talking about the film. So yeah, those are some things, and it's been a really quiet week, like a really quiet week. The one thing is, have you heard about? In fact, I'll save that one for the end. But just last night, and obviously I sent it to you. Warner Brothers and LeBron James released the new Toon Squad jerseys. Well, they released a look at the new Toon Squad jerseys for the new Space Jam film.
Yeah, I saw. You sent me that, so yes, I've
seen
that.
I sent it to you. I like it, but I don't think it's as good as the original one.
Yeah, I mean the original ones was obviously a classic.
Ruddy iconic.
Yeah. This new one, it's more funky, maybe to describe it. I don't, but then again, that might be more in fitting with the tone of this sequel. I don't know. It might. You might see the film and go, "Oh yeah, it fits," and I get it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it looks nice, and I'll probably buy them. And as I will probably all the merch for that film. But yeah,
you can just see them saying, "Oh yeah, this is the what's it called? Toon Squad, Toon Team,
Toon Squad,
Toon Squad." They'll have the kit they've released, and then they'll also go, "We also have we also have an away kit, so we're selling both. So you need to buy both of them. Money,
yeah.
ching ching."
Also,
do you want the alternate kit?
And the last bit, I'm bringing back a segment. I'm bringing back the things that make me go,
Oh, it's the things that makes them go,
So, have you heard about Ryan Reynolds and what he's done?
A little bit. I believe. I think what you're going to tell me is that he's released his own streaming service.
Yes, he's released his own streaming service called Mint Mobile, and it's only got one film on it.
And what film's that?
One of his.
You can tell we're prepared.
No, well, that's the thing. I wasn't even gonna talk about this because it's just so like whatever. But
yeah, I know as much as it was one of his films and it has one movie
give me
on
a
it.
second.
When you brought it up, I thought you'd have
no,
movie written down.
No, I just thought that the landscape of movie news is so barren this week that I would just put that in. Streams want, let me see, Foolproof, which is a badly reviewed heist film. There you go. So that's what's streaming. Foolproof on Mint Mobile with Ryan Reynolds.
Cool. So let's just move on to the main event.
The main event.
So this week it was my choice, and I chose a film which is not very well known. It wasn't a major blockbuster, but what it was I'm pretty certain it's the highest crowd-funded movie ever, and that is Code 8, starring Stephen Amell and Robbie Amell.
Yeah.
And a little bit of info about the production before we launch into the film is that in 2016, Robbie and Stephen Amell released a short film, Code 8, which acted as a teaser for a promotional feature film. An Indiegogo fundraising campaign asking for $200,000 was launched on 23rd of March. And do you know how much it reached?
500,000.
$2.4 million.
That's a lot of coin. That'll
That
pay
is a
off
lot
my
of coin.
taxes.
and then fund. Well, I say that was what was reached by April 24th, and funding closed on $3.4 million when they only asked for 200,000. Um,
Diggity
so
dang.
so people saw the short and were very taken by it and really wanted to help make it happen. Um, so that helped with all of that stuff. And there was over 30,000 contributors to making this film happen. It was then made, released, and it's now currently sitting on Netflix. So it's a film that um, I was excited to see once because I watched the short film myself when they put it on Indiegogo and were trying to get it made. So after they did get it made and released, I was really keen to see it. However, it wasn't available. It wasn't in the cinemas here. I did get a theatrical release in the US, but it never made it to at least like the Odeon and big cinemas here. So I didn't get to see it there. So because I hadn't seen it until it was finally released on Netflix early this year, I think. So I watched it, and now I get to share it with you people because it's a film that I've been passionate about before it was even made. So this is where we are, and I'm get to talk about it on this podcast. I'm genuinely excited to talk about it, because it's a sort of film and a sort of a genre which appeals to me. It's not necessarily, it's not a film that's gonna win any Oscars, but it's a sort of almost like an underground film, like the fact it's been crowdfunded and made, and the fact it's about people with powers immediately appeals to me. So before I continue off talking about it, Stuart, this is the first time you have seen it, so as we always do you have any questions about this film?
No. No, I
No.
don't. No questions. It was a pretty simple, basic kind of run of the mill.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward plot.
Yeah. So
Cool
no
beans.
no questions as such.
Cool. So what did you think of this film then? Just to kick off, what was your general impression of this movie?
I don't really know. I mean, it wasn't pulling up trees, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
And there was parts that were really good. There was parts that were a bit not so good. Up until a point, there's a certain character in it where I'm like, what is this character's purpose? Why is she here? Like up until that point, I'm like, she could have been taken out the movie and replaced with like a rock or something like that.
Who you talking about?
I'm talking about Nia.
Nia. Yeah. So
but
yeah,
it isn't until the very end, where she kind of becomes you see why, because obviously he has to choose between his mum or her, because obviously when you learn that so this lassie called Nia is a healer, and she like can heal people. So like the different powers are like a electric brawn. Is that one of them?
Yeah, I can't remember. There's loads of different types. Like
yes, so they all have different names. They're not like yes, I shoot electric in my hands. It's no, you are a level whatever.
yeah,
So it's like
whatever
it's
electric
like almost.
or yeah.
Do you know what it kind of reminded me of? A bit of Civil War, like
Right. In what sense?
but more the comic than the film.
Right.
Because in the comic, it's more about superheroes need to register their secret identity rather than they need to make themselves, like obviously in the Civil War film, it's about making themselves accountable through their actions and how they have to act under a governing body. Whereas in the comic, it's about how they give up their secret identities. And that's how they make themselves accountable, because then people will know who they are. So it kind of reminded me of that, and the fact that everybody with powers as such was registered. But she is, anyway, back to what I was talking about, she's a healer. And like for the whole way through the film, I'm like, there could be some sort of magic rock that did the same thing. But then in the end of the film, it's like shown that she kind of like, she can heal people. She can either heal his mum, but when she heals people, she takes the damage onto herself. So there's a scene
Yeah,
earlier
yeah,
where
yeah.
Robbie Amell's character Connor, he's like sliced by a knife, and she heals it, and it isn't until later on in the film that she actually reveals that she's got the wound on herself. And it's kind of hinted at throughout the film, because when
Yeah.
she heals the main guy, whose name now escapes me, it starts with Sutcliffe. That's it. When she heals him, she then takes on. You can see her like coughing, but you think it's just because of the drugs. When
Mm.
really it's that she's taken his damage as such. So eventually I saw why she was used, because I thought she was going to be a love interest, but then she wasn't, and it's a bit like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I actually like that because, like you say, at first you're like, oh, this is gonna be his love interest, and this he's gonna. But watching it for the second time when I watched it today, when you know that she doesn't turn into a love interest, there actually
yeah,
isn't really anything there between them.
yeah. No, there's nothing to kind
Yeah.
of, yeah,
But I remember when I first watched it, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a love interest thing," but actually,
yeah,
it's not. It's all to do with he's just a nice enough guy to speak to her,
yeah,
and then quite quickly, it's revealed to him that she can heal people, and because of that because his mum is very ill, it's like, oh, you could be, you could heal my mum, and
yeah,
he doesn't know that she takes his damage, so in his mind, that's cool. I'll just take you to heal my mum. Then
yeah,
that's you fine to go. It's no issue. And then obviously the big sort of reveal for her character is, no, I take everything I heal. It isn't really. I don't really
yeah,
heal people. I transfer their illness to me.
yeah,
So because of that, it then becomes this big moral issue
yeah.
of, if I heal my mum from this thing that's killing
Then
her,
I
I'm
kill
gonna
her.
kill
Yeah,
her,
yeah,
and that's what it leads to.
yeah.
Um,
The
so
twists were something that I thought were really good. Like there was a couple, there was two twists towards the end. There was one which is the heal, her taking the damage, and then the other one where they do their big job, and
mm,
the guys turn on them and then shoot their pals. Who I was really sad when the guy who um doesn't speak, he just does sign language. I
yeah,
was really
yeah.
sad when he died, because I don't know why, but I
He
really
was a
liked
good
him. I was
character.
like,
He had a
he's
couple
cool.
of his character had a couple of comic moments with the whole doing sign language, saying one thing and then people translating it as something else.
Yeah,
I found quite funny. Or him misunderstanding what he's signing. There was a bit where the guy who's signing sticks his thumb up and spins it around, and it's
yeah, calls him
like
an asshole.
yeah, and he just looks at him and gives him a thumbs up because he thinks he's giving him a thumbs up, and it's just little
Yeah.
bits of humor like that. I was like, that's funny. Um, so yeah, I liked his character, and it was a shame and a little. I don't know whether I'd say it was shocking that there was a double cross, or whether you could kind of see that he might double cross him. I don't know, but yeah, I like that. I like that a lot actually. But
Yeah,
um, going back to the sort of general premise of the landscape of the film, I just find it really interesting because it's set in a world where normal people are normal people, and then there's other people who have these powers.
yeah. It's a bit like
And
Bright.
yeah. It
I've never
reminded me a
seen
bit of
Bright,
Bright.
but
It reminds
uh,
me a bit of Bright. The kind of tone reminds me of Bright, and
yeah.
this also reminds me a little bit of District 9.
All
In
right, yeah.
Yeah, just in
Prawn,
terms of
yeah, prawn.
there's a but yeah, in terms of these movies have quite a heavily metaphored on like
Yeah,
class struggle, and that's what I found really interesting is the whole thing of like discrimination on these people with powers is clearly a metaphor for discrimination on either people of race or people
yeah,
of poverty or
yeah.
all that sort of thing. So it's
Yeah, that was
handled well.
the second note I took, was like, oh, this seems to be commentary, kind of based on ethnicity,
Yeah,
by the fact that the ones who have powers are like the minorities and whatnot. Um, but yeah,
yeah, and I found that interesting because in the majority of movies you see with people with powers, it's always the people with powers who are sort of come out on top because they're superior to other people. In such a way, not in such a way that they always sort of uprise. I know, like in things like X-Men, there's always seems to be like this discrimination thing of no,
Yeah,
we need to keep the people with powers down because they're
yeah,
gonna come and rise up against us and overturn um the in terms of who has the power over everyone. If people with
the
power,
power.
yeah, yeah. If the people with power take control, then there's nothing that the people without power, like the normal people, are going to be able to do. It's that sort of mentality. So I found that interesting, um, but it's also that heavy thing of racism, like the sort of the scenes. There was a scene with when they brought Connor into the police station, and you
Yeah,
had the actor who I forget his name but plays Han in
yeah.
Fast and
Is that
Furious.
right? Okay, yeah.
I
I
was
thought it
chuffed that
was
he
him.
was in this. He was almost like the good cop and was really had this a genuine good cop, and then there was the guy who was the bad cop in it,
Yeah,
effectively, who was so discriminatory against him, was to the extent was saying he might be innocent, but let's just plant stuff in his house and get this done. You know how,
yeah, yeah,
and it's like all of these like parallels between what actually does happen in terms of racism and in terms of discrimination against other people and other ethnicities and classes. I found very powerful in this movie. Um,
totally.
so
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, yeah. So I found that really a sort of interesting point and a landscape to set up this story. Um, and what early on, what I like is you get to see what they call the Guardians, which are
Yeah,
these like
they're cool.
robots. Yeah,
They look
I'm like,
really
oh
cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Which come from the big ships that go about scanning people's faces to see who they are and if they're someone who's powered, if they're registered to be a powered person or what. Um, and they're obviously designed to be able to take out people with powers because people with
Yeah,
powers are going to be too powerful for the normal police, at least the powerful ones. So I found that interesting. I'm like, oh, that's cool because when you think about it, normal police wouldn't be able to police criminal powered people. So they have. It's
no.
cool how they come up with that like mechanical system to fight the battles for them. That was something I thought was a
Yeah,
cool way.
it's almost like because then if you look at it, you go, well, if it's just people taking these people down, then they're not really that much of a threat.
Yeah.
So I thought the Guardians were a really kind of cool way to kind of put that across as when like, oh, we need to have something a bit more. And again, the design of them, like if you've not seen the movie, just Google like what they look like. They look really cool, and that's enough to sell them. Like you say, it's a crowd-funded thing, and always when you go into these crowd-funded things, despite the names that are attached, Stephen Amell, Robbie Amell, big actors on television. Stephen Amell, probably arguably bigger than Robbie, but like I know more of probably Stephen Amell. Although I've seen Robbie first, I know more of Stephen Amell's work,
Hmm.
because he got involved with WWE at a point, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
who's this
yeah.
guy? So yeah, you do come into that and you worry because you're like, oh, it's a crowd-funded movie. Is this going to be any good? And then you see stuff like, I mean, there's no dodgy CG or anything like that.
No, and
Um,
I think
s-
that's what helps it is the fact that it was so
yeah,
well funded instead of
it's real.
having
Yeah,
the bare minimum
yeah,
they have had
like
a few million to work with.
yeah. So
Which
I
isn't
imagine
loads of
sequence.
money based
Yeah,
on like big budget films, but for a small
yeah,
budget
definitely.
film it certainly helps.
Yeah, I imagine the sequences became a lot bigger when they had a bit more to play with, and that's what's good to see is people's creativity get put to work like that, and that it shows that the investment that was put in by other people is actually, it comes off, it's paid, and to do that, I watched this film, and I was like, they made this on only two, well,
Yeah, I think it was
two point
3.4.
three 3.4 million, like, and you've got and I didn't notice anything wrong with it. Fair enough, it's not on the same level as like an Avengers or something like that, which probably costs about 200, 300 million. Um,
I
but
think it
you're
was
still
more
like,
than that.
yeah, you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
big
yeah, yeah,
budget,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and you
yeah.
see it, and you're kind of like, well, there's not real, you can't fault it. Like I've seen movies of the same kind of ilk that have spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds and not looked as good as that.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
thought that was, I think the money that they did it for. Do you know what they made on it? Like what the gross was,
No, I've not
or
looked
anything
at
like that?
I've never looked at the box office
Let's
for it.
let's let me have a little look for now. If let's say on
Yeah,
IMDb, because I'm quite
I mean
interested after we kind of
it's also
spoke
in
about that. Now.
yeah. I mean, I don't know what sort of numbers you'll get for that, considering it didn't have a huge international theatrical release. It's more been like obviously it did have some theatrical release, but I think some of it was DVD, and obviously they then got the rights to get it onto Netflix. So I'm not sure how that translates.
Yeah. Okay. The box office isn't great. So worldwide it only made $157,000,
Yeah, that's the
which is
thing
criminal.
because I didn't think it. I mean, it did. I think from what I read, the theatrical release was like limited only in America and in select theaters. I don't think it really had much of a theatrical release. I think it was more anyone who'd crowdfunded it got a DVD of it sent to them, and obviously
Right, right.
sort of thing. And then obviously it did have a small limited release theatrically in America, and then obviously
Yeah.
it's now been on Netflix. So I didn't expect the box office to be
No.
huge for it.
Well, do you know what though? There's honor in that, in the sense of they made it because they want to make it. They didn't make it to make money,
Yeah, I mean it was a clear
and
passion
that's
project.
and yeah, and I think that really comes across, and that makes it a better film because it really came across that it was something that they were passionate about. Them two were the best actors in it by a mile.
Oh yeah.
Like they were so strong, so you could tell that a lot of drive came from them. As well as the two cops, I thought them four were the best actors in it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I mean, obviously there's stronger than others. I didn't really rate the healer. I didn't really think she was fantastic, but again, there were scenes where she really did come into it, but then it's almost
The
as
one
if it was that character that um she didn't. What am I trying to say? She wasn't bad. I just say she wasn't, as strong as the others. But
yeah, the one actor I did think was just brought in, and not that he did a bad job, but was more just brought in to be the big tough man, was the guy who was like bulletproof.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
I thought
But that's
he did I
that's
thought he
that.
did that role fine, but at the same time I was like, yeah, you're just been cast as a general hard man.
Yeah, but that's a bit like what Batista became in movies and such for a little while, other than Guardians. So like in was it Spectre he was in?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. In fact, I don't think he said anything in Spectre.
Yeah, I think he only really. I actually don't remember, to be honest. He either didn't
So
say anything or had little lines. He was more brawn, and he was also similar in, um, what's it called with Sylvester Stallone?
Escape Plan.
Escape Plan 2, which was
Yeah,
shockingly bad.
I
Um,
haven't seen that.
the first one I enjoyed. The second one,
Wait, have I
oh
seen
my
that?
goodness, it was bad.
I might have seen it.
Oh, it
Give me a
was
sec.
so bad. Because Batista wasn't in the first one. It was
No, I've definitely seen the first one.
yeah, because the first one is with Schwarzenegger and Stallone, and then the second one Schwarzenegger refused to be in because he probably read the script and went, "That's mince," and then they replaced him with Batista.
Oh, network error. Escape Plan 2. I have seen it.
Wow.
That tells you all you need to know. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, what about the plot? Like, let's talk about the plot here.
Yeah.
The
So
actual run of it.
yeah, I mean the plot in it had a, I quite liked it to an extent. I like the fact that there was a few different layers to what they
Yeah.
were doing during the plot, because a big bit of the plot relies on the fact that he has this relationship with his mum. They're really struggling financially because of the situation, how she's a single mum whose his dad was someone else who had powers, and obviously they were struggling for money because they couldn't get jobs because they were powered people, and people who have powers really struggle to get jobs because of the
Yeah.
discrimination thing. So because they've got no money, it starts off at the beginning showing you him looking through all these letters, and it's all final payment, payment missed, all this
Yeah.
stuff, how they're really in debt. She only has this like almost like a part-time job in a shop, and he has to go and try and find construction work, which isn't
Yeah.
legal either because he's
Yeah.
powered and he's not meant to be doing that. So they're really
Yeah.
struggling
And
for
it's
money.
done. It's done in a kind of way of when you see it on American television shows. It's normally stereotypically, Latin Americans
Yeah,
who
yeah,
are there standing. What the way it's kind of represented is they all stand on a stoop, and then a car drives up and like, oh, I need 2 electrics, 2 bronze, level class, whatever they are, class 5, and then they'll go, yeah, that's me, and then they jump in the van, go off, do the
yeah,
job, get paid.
yeah.
So yeah, but so it comes out that they're all some of them there's actually powered people being farmed for this drug that they're peddling called psych.
Yes.
They get it from their spinal fluid. So that obviously becomes a big thing.
And what
Robbie
I found
Amell's
interesting, yeah,
Sorry,
so
on you go.
about that, what I found interesting was that in a news report, I don't even know if I caught it the first time I watched it, but it was saying, oh, because of what it is, because it's these powered people giving up their spinal fluid,
Yeah.
the government don't know whether to treat these people as the victims or the traffickers.
Yeah,
And I'm just
yeah,
like, that's really interesting from a political sort of view for them to go, we don't know, shall we treat these people as the victims?
yeah,
Or are these the people who are trafficking this and should we clamp this? And I'm like, that's a really interesting ethical issue.
yeah. That's really cool as well. But again, like I was saying, um, so Robbie Amell's character then gets picked up by Stephen Amell's and then a couple of other actors and actresses whose names escape me, um, for a job. He goes and does the job. He's a class 5 electric, I believe.
He's
Robbie
yeah.
Amell.
Yeah, he's class 5, but at the sort of beginning he keeps that to himself because the class
Yeah,
5 is very powerful.
he's always
So they're always saying, "Oh, we need a
yeah,
class 2," and he's just like, "Yeah, I can do that," but he never says
yeah.
what he is.
He's a bit like Elsa from Frozen in the sense he's been told to conceal, don't feel. um,
Yeah,
but yeah, he gets picked up by Stephen Amell and Garrett, who is his character name, um, goes and does the job really well for them. So they're like, "Hey, come and work for us again." So he continues to do so.
yeah.
Then he
What's
finds
what's
out there's
interesting
this,
about the job is that you can see that he's doing it solely because he needs the money for his
he
mum,
needs some money.
because
Yeah,
he has that moral issue himself when he knows what he's doing is illegal because
yeah,
they're stealing stuff, and a security guard comes out and confronts them, and they have
yeah,
to more or less take the weapon off him, and then or so not weapon, take his radio off him, and
yeah,
then they lock him inside a dumpster, and he's like, "You're just gonna
yeah,
leave him there," and then they just take off. He knows what he's doing is illegal and is wrong, and he doesn't really want to do it, but that drive and need to help his mum's health and to get her better is that driving force that's he takes over because he spent his whole life doing it his mum's way, who's always told him, don't let people see your powers, like
yeah,
don't be a criminal, like do honest work. And he's
yeah,
at this stage getting so desperate that he's having to turn to illegal routes,
yeah,
but it's this more this issue like which relates to what's happening with real life people in these situations where it feels like to them and looks like to them that there's no other way because
yeah, yeah,
they can't get jobs, no one's hiring them, and they're in so much debt, and there's people who are ill, and the only way to make any money is by breaking the law.
yep. Totally correct. Totally correct.
Yeah.
And it just sorry, I'm really tired. And it just keeps building and building up. So he finds out he's working for he finds out Garrett is working for this guy called Sutcliffe, who is in debt himself,
Yeah, yeah.
to somebody. What did they call the guy? Or the group that the guy's from?
Uh,
What are they called?
it eludes me. Sorry.
Yeah. So they're working for someone, they're in debt to someone else, which makes me go, oh, sequel maybe? I don't know. But then I'm also
Well,
like, well, you can't really end it how they did if it's a sequel.
yeah. I mean, apparently, they're gonna be doing a sort of spin-off series on Quibi. Apparently, I read.
Oh, on Quibi.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh,
Oh dear.
that's a shame.
Netflix to Quibi. My
Yeah.
goodness.
I mean, am I right in saying Quibi's a service that has it's just 10-minute shorts? Is that how that
Yeah.
works? Yeah. I mean, I can understand why they might
And
go that way.
I'm pretty sure they're all filmed in portrait mode.
Quite possibly, I think it is for phone. I mean, I suppose if they're gonna get funded that way to make it, and they can just make short things, and
Yeah.
aye, but it's not. Nobody's really on Quibi.
Well, yep. Quibi, yeah, it's not done particularly well. Since its big release. Again, another podcast I listened to has spoke about Quibi, and they're like, yeah, not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're working for somebody else who's working for somebody else, and they're all in debt, so it gets passed down the line. So they need to keep doing these jobs. They then kind of relationship builds between Robbie Amell's character and Nia, who he starts to care for, almost like his sister. He ends up proving his worth by doing these jobs, protecting her. There's a scene where a lassie comes in to try and kill Sutcliffe, and Robbie Amell's character, shocks her and kills her. So to protect, like I say, protect Sutcliffe. So
Yeah.
they kind of proves his worth. Then they kind of decide that they've got to go out and do this big job. And during this whole time, Robbie Amell's character's his mum's getting worse, so he's like getting more and more desperate to get more money. They do this big job, which goes wrong.
Yeah, and
So
that's the thing.
they try and break it to a bank. They said there's going to be like 500 million. They only get like, yeah. Is it
No,
500
I think it was 500,000 or something.
Well, 500,000. They only get like
10,000 or yeah,
they get
something
a
like
really
that.
small
Yeah.
amount.
And what I liked about that is that it wasn't their mistake. It was the guy Sutcliffe's mistake. He should have checked the times and known what the information was, and he just said, "Yeah, just go hit this bank." And when they went, it was like pretty much the worst time to go because the banks had just been emptied. The vault had just been emptied that day.
Yeah.
And so there was no money to really get, a very small amount that was left over. So yeah, that then continues to put pressure on all of them, because what they were saying is that the big company that they're all in debt to isn't just going to come for Sutcliffe, he's going to come for all of them.
Yeah. So they then have to go and do this bigger job, which they end up working out because Robbie Amell's character gets taken into prison and overhears them talking about. He overhears the police officers talking about this bigger job, which is they take all the psych and they you're told earlier on, they take all the psych once a month and they go and burn it. And then they find out how much it's worth. It's something like 10 million. So they go, yeah, this is a job we need to do. And one of my things here is like, see if you're the police, why would you advertise that you do that? Like,
yeah,
you're just asking for it then.
It's one of the plot points that I didn't think was done well, because when I first saw it, I thought, oh, that's going to be like a diversion thing. They're going to say that it's going here when really it's going somewhere else. And that's what I thought it was going. But no,
it was just,
yeah.
Unless
everybody knew that was where it was going.
Yeah. Unless it is a thing where they try and bait them. And they are like, oh yeah, we've got this here. Come and get it, kind of thing. So they can take them off the streets. Because obviously they are, one of them, as you see, who is willing to plant drugs on like Stephen Amell's character and Robbie Amell's character and all that. He's willing to plant drugs on psych people, powered people, sorry, is what I meant to say. like almost that extent that they're pretty much in the place they are like. It's almost like, yeah, we want to. There's some of them who are like, yeah, we want to kill these guys.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
whereas the other one who, um, I believe his name is Davis. Is that right? Han's character, is it Davis or is it the other one that's called Davis?
Um, the other guy is called Davis.
Oh right, okay. I've taken that down wrong. But the guy who plays Han, in Fast and Furious,
Yeah.
his character, it comes out that his daughter has powers.
Yes, and that's what
Yeah,
I like that plot point because it like you say it throws into that ethical dilemma and shows you why he's so level-headed on that they're actually just people. Like they're not.
yeah,
His
yeah,
daughter has powers, and he's like, right, okay, we really shouldn't be discriminating against these people.
yeah. And you see why, like, it's throughout. It's kind of made out that all these cops are against power people. Um, but then you kind of see that he's, like you've said previously when we talked about this, is that he's a kind of nice cop, and he looks
Yeah,
out for
yeah,
them and stuff like that. So it makes you go, oh, why is that the case then? And then obviously you find out it's because his daughter has one. It has powers, which makes me think, well, how do people get the powers? Like,
yeah. I
because
mean, what they put in
if he
they put in the beginning of the when the movie first starts and the titles and it shows you all these news clippings, it literally comes up saying that they don't really know where it came from and or why people have powers. In fact, they weren't even testing folk as long it was back in the war when they were getting people putting them to work to get things done,
right.
and they were like saying they didn't care where they came from as long as they worked and got things done. So I think this sort of kind of sets out that they're not really going to explain that.
Yeah, because there you go. Well, does that mean he's got them? Does
Yeah,
that mean
I
his
don't.
wife's got them?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, because like you say, because they don't explain it. Um, I mean, it's very much hinted that, or at least one side of the family would need to have it, but it doesn't necessarily explain if it skips a generation sometimes or what
yeah,
happens. So, um,
aye, and that's to me that's a small weakness. I think that it almost doesn't make that reveal. It's almost like it isn't earned.
mm,
In the sense of, yeah, he's nice and he's nice because his daughter is well, put it this way, it left me with more questions than it did like, oh right, so that's why he's nice. Because then I'm like, well, does that mean does he have powers? Does that mean does his wife have powers? Like, how
yeah,
is that? You know?
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I get that, but I think the whole reason that it was in there was to be
maybe
quite.
she's adopted.
Well, I think it was. I
No,
mean, you never know.
that might be it. That no, because that can't be it because it's she that asks him, "Are you gonna give me away?" Never mind.
Yeah, yeah,
I thought it was because I was gonna say it's because a different child says to a parent, "Are you gonna give me away?" But no, okay,
yeah.
never mind that.
I think
That's a
that
train of
whole.
thought that's wrong.
I think that whole plot point really is just to give you a reason why he's nice. It's not just because he's a nice guy. He has stakes
Yeah,
in it in terms of he understands the discriminate. He can't discriminate because his daughter has powers. It doesn't just because you have power doesn't make you a bad person.
yeah,
And I should say also that thing where she says, "Are you gonna give me away?" Why'd you say that? Oh, well, there's other people like people give away people like me. Like other
yeah,
families give away people like me. Um, which is another. I think it's another bit to hit you with of what. Yeah, you know what I mean.
yeah. No, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. Um. So, there's a bit in the film where he starts. It's the bit. It's the moral dilemma in him that what I'm just going to speak about just now is
yeah,
that I found interesting because he is. You can see that he's generally a good character and that he mostly wants to do good things, but as I was saying before, he's pushed because of his situation into crime, and the more the more he's in crime, the more he's used to it, and Stephen Amell's character is actively training him up to be ready to do these jobs. So I like that we training montage when he like says, right, make this light bulb light up and keep it lit, and then there's more light bulbs coming at him and he has to light all that stuff, and he's learning to actually develop this power which he's been compressed and restricted his whole life. He's now being told to use it. And I think he's liking that power and liking being able to fight back, which he's never been able to do before. And then
it's like a release.
Yeah, exactly. He gets a release, and you do get to see that in his like pulse, in these pulse rages that he has. You can almost see where his where he's bringing that from, and it's from all that years of suppression and hate and frustration and anger, which he's then able to release. But the bit I found interesting is when he started lying to his mum, because his mum's the closest person to him, lying about where this money's coming from. And he's like, oh no, I got the big job interview that I went for, which was obviously a complete lie. And then she finds out about it, and she's like, where are you getting all this money from? And he's like, oh yeah, I was working overtime. And she's just like, stop lying to me! Yeah, like that. And
wow.
And obviously he then has this big confrontation with her about, your way doesn't work, I've tried it. And she's like, you're just being like your dad. And he's like, so what? Like, at least I'm making a difference. At least he did something.
At least one of us is.
Yeah, it was like, at least he did something about it.
Do you know what? There's a few lines in here which reminded me a lot of other movies. Like, in the beginning, she was like, oh, what kind of vegetable are you? And he's like, tomato. And then she's like, oh, I'd be an onion because of the layers. And
onions have layers?
I've literally written here, onion joke, ... Okay, Shrek. And then that one was like, oh, at least one of us is sounding like my dad, Lion King. I was like, we're seeing what kind of films the Amell's like.
yeah, no, I should say it's funny because I obviously immediately thought of Shrek when about the onion thing, but no, I hadn't quite thought about the other quote for the Lion King. But yeah, I get that. But as you say,
and that's probably not what they meant. But
no.
That's what came to my head.
Yeah. And then obviously through this argument, her health has been getting worse and worse because she has powers. I think her powers is to do with like freezing water, and she's losing control of it. And so then she like
now
collapses.
It seems like she's freezing herself.
Yeah.
Well, her blood's freezing or something like that.
Yeah. Either way, it's like she's lost control, and I think she has a tumor in her head.
Colder than the Arctic.
And so she collapses, and he then takes her to a hospital, and they're saying, right, well, we could do this, but it's going to cost you thousands and thousands, which he doesn't have. Even though he's been making some money, he's not got that kind of money yet.
Yeah.
And he needs it right now, which is obviously why he's pushing to do this heist. Big job, so he can get his millions, so he can just pay and get her better. Then, obviously, when that goes wrong again, because they get double crossed, and Sutcliffe gets takes all of it, and kills the rest of the crew apart from Stephen and Robbie's characters because they managed to get away, and are left with nothing. That pushes him to that proper stage of desperation where he does have to go, I just need to get Mia there and heal him, and that's all I need. And that's what his focus is I have to get this done. I have to heal my mum. Which is why he then...
Well, there's something Stephen Amell's character says to him. It's like... I wish I wrote it down. So it's like kind of along the lines of, well, if you want it, take it.
Yeah. So he does tell him. He does tell him in his training at first, something along the lines of, if you want something, go and get it, take it. And then in that moment when after he goes to the good cop, and says, "Look, I know I broke the law, but this is what's going on. You can get a really big bust here."
Yeah.
And helps him, and they go in. The guy runs away, and it's almost like they've set a wee trap where the Amells can then take out Sutcliffe, and
Yep.
they do that and get Mia. Yeah, which leads to that point when he actually kills Stephen Amell's character kills Sutcliffe, and Mia's there, and it's that bit where he's like, that's when Mia tells him, "Look, I can't just go and heal your mum because it could
Yeah.
kill me," and that's when
Yeah.
you see that dilemma in his head, and Stephen Amell then says to him, "Leave here with what you came for," or something like
Yeah.
that, like take, or it was either that or it was take what you came to get,
Yes.
something along those lines, and you can see this moral dilemma in his head: do I more or less sacrifice her, put her through this death to save my mum, or don't I? And then I thought anyway at that stage he was then gonna bottle it and be like, "No, I can't do this." And then
Yeah.
and then it just cuts to the scene when they're walking through the hospital together and takes her to a room and closes the door. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh man, he's gonna do it."
He's got to do it. Yeah.
And then she says the most wonderful thing in a moment when you're being forced to heal someone with a disease that's highly likely to kill you, and she just goes, "She looks beautiful." And
Yeah.
I'm just like, and then proceeds to heal her and or begin healing her, and starts
Yeah.
transferring this disease, and that's when Connor has this realization
Revelation.
and revelation that what his mum had previously told him anyway, "You need to let me go," and he's like, no, I
Yeah.
can't do that, is that actually everything that he's been doing is against what his mum actually wants, and his mum only ever was wanting good from him and for him, and
Yeah.
and actually through saving her you're killing someone else, and is actually
Yeah.
his mum wouldn't want that, and would hold, and he realizes that what he's doing is wrong and that he actually does need to let his mum go, and then
Aye.
says, no, stop doing this, and takes her away and says, "Look," his mum wakes up because she's been a little bit healed,
Yeah.
but it's only for a short time or whatever, and
Just enough for her to
Yeah.
sit, for them to have a moment,
Yeah.
and kind of almost say goodbye to each
yeah,
other.
yeah, which was nice, and then they drive away together,
Yeah.
and I say drive away together. They drive away. He stops outside the police station, and
Yeah.
he says to her, "Look, this vehicle's got a full tank. It can take to wherever you want to go." And then has a wee emotional moment where he says, "Look, I'm sorry for what I've put you through. I'm really sorry."
Yeah.
But then
Yeah,
what I
because
found,
her character, just keep what you've got in your head, but I feel like we haven't really touched on her, and she actually is, despite the fact I said she could have been replaced with a rock, her character journey is actually something, because to give her a bit of background, her dad evidently was involved with Sutcliffe at some point.
yeah,
You find out her dad's in jail. She's there to help Sutcliffe's needs, not sexually, but like obviously heal him whenever he needs it. So she's being used by that. She's being paid in psych. So she's being controlled by him, in the sense of he's got what she needs, a la the drugs. So he's weaned her onto those drugs,
yeah,
to keep her on a leash, and knowing that she can't get it from anywhere else. So she's like, if you heal me, because obviously she's feeling the pain, all the pain that he feels, where the drugs are the escape. So it's this vicious circle that she's in. So then eventually, when she gets freed of that, she goes and visits her dad, and then obviously they share a moment where her dad kind of knows that, all right, this must mean that Sutcliffe's dead, my daughter's free, kind of thing.
yeah,
And so she's almost being kept captive and prisoner and as like a pawn, and like that's how she's kind of used. I think that's why I maybe see her as being replaced as a rock, because I don't like the idea of her being used, um, in the sense of like,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, I think the idea behind that,
it's
at least
it's almost like trafficking. It
yeah,
is almost
yeah.
like
I mean,
they're
that's exactly what it
trafficking
is.
her.
And I think that's kind of the point, at least for the kind of first
Yeah.
half of this film, where you think she doesn't really do much. But I think the point behind that is that she really could be any. I mean, she has, obviously, apart from the fact that she has the powers to heal him, she really could be
Yeah.
anybody. She's not special. She's just been
Yeah.
trafficked for that reason, effectively. Of I,
Look at this.
I,
We've talked me round.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because that's the
And it
thing.
was me
It's
that
like
done it. I talked
you
myself
talked
round.
yourself into it. But yeah, because her dad owes him a debt, so he's like,
Yeah.
okay, don't kill me or whatever. Take my daughter to heal yourself with, or do whatever you want with. And she's just like doing that, and okay, give me drugs. And that's like, just as you said, it's that vicious cycle. But she is stuck in that life. She can't get out of it because it's like, no, you have to be with me. If not, I'll kill your dad.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so like you say, it's total manipulation. And as I say, she could be anybody up until the sort of second half of the film, where she actually becomes more meaningful to the plot and the purpose, and
Yeah.
in terms of
Yep.
her and Connors and all of what goes on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah. So anyway, continue what you were saying. If you've managed to keep it in your head.
Well, no, I haven't. I don't know where
Cool.
we left off.
We were at the end. We were towards the end where she says to her, where he drops her off outside. Well, he gets out, gives her the car.
Yeah.
When they get to
So
the police station.
yeah, so I think it then leaves, after that point, it leaves the ending sort of on this, in this weird place. Well, obviously she goes to visit her. Well,
Yeah.
actually, it does a jump in time. Where
Aye.
he then visits his mum's grave, because his mum's clearly passed away, and
Yep.
Stephen Amell's character pays off the guy who was in debt, who they were in debt to, in fact, double the amount, because he's now got the money because he's the kingpin and got all this drugs and never got arrested.
Yeah.
So it's like, right, okay. But what happens to Connor's character is kind of left a bit of a mystery, because he just sort of
Yeah.
says to his mum's grave, like, oh, I won't be visiting for a while because I need to go away for a bit
Yeah.
and keep me on the straight and narrow. And then it's like, that was really where his character was left, I think. So it's like, okay, where's that going? So it kind of was left open to do something with it, which, and I think they are at least planning on doing some sort of spin-off series, as I said, on Quibi, I think. But I don't really know where his character's going from the point he left off from, whether that's
Yeah.
going into a life where he's gonna be more working with Stephen Amell, or whether it's going to be the opposite, where he's had this revelation in his life now that he actually needs to stay on the straight and narrow and gonna go a different way.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of this interesting ending, which doesn't have right now, at least, doesn't have a definitive answer. And
Mhm.
I'm personally not sure how I feel about the strength of the ending. I enjoy, on the whole, I enjoyed a lot of this film, a lot.
Yeah.
But where it ended, I kind of was just like, okay, that's the
Too
ending.
is it too ambiguous for you?
I think so, because it didn't have a definitive ending and it didn't have a definitive cliffhanger. I think it was just kind of this, oh, all right, I just don't really know what's happening with him.
Yeah, it definitely seems like there would be some sort of sequel, but it's almost as if it wasn't like worked out.
Yeah,
like in the
because
sense
yeah,
of it like in it. So if you look at the three characters, so Stephen Amell's character, who's like, obviously pays off the big boss, but he still also is kind of involved in the still, like, he's now the second boss as such. It seems. Robbie Amell's character, is he in jail? Is he not? Like, But where does his character progress? Because you've seen there is no opportunity for them, or there's very rare opportunity. And then Nia, her arc is the only one that is kind of fully complete because she's free, and she
Yeah,
went and
yeah.
visited her dad. But other than that, I don't know. Like, part of you goes, maybe they planned a sequel, and part of me goes, I don't actually know. But
I more think they've probably just left it deliberately open to do more
yeah,
with it, but with a sense of we're really just making the standalone movie, and then we'll see what happens after that.
yeah.
Because as I say, I don't think they left it in a place of, oh, but there's gonna be another one.
Oh.
But at the same time, there was still plenty of threads to tug on at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we've kind of hit the marks we wanted to hit in talking about this movie.
Yep.
So yeah. So what did, if you were to give this a rating out of a million? No, I'm only kidding. If you give this rating out of 10, where does this land for you?
Well, I'm going higher than its IMDb rating.
I've not checked what it is.
It's 6.1.
Oh, okay.
Higher than The Kissing Booth,
Oh,
which I watched last night as well. But I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
cool. Yeah.
So
It's yeah.
I admire the dedication to getting it done. I mean, they'll know themselves. It's not the best film, but it's not the worst film.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Escape Plan 2 is the worst film.
I also potentially agree with that. Yeah, so no, my rating is a 7.2.
A 7.2, not a 7.25.
No,
7.2.
7.2.
All right.
Because
This rating system's just gone out the window.
simply because I think it was still a good movie. I still enjoyed it. But it's one of those films that I feel the concept was very strong, and I still think it
Yeah.
was delivered quite well. But as you say, it's still, despite it making a lot more money than it was trying to make through crowdfunding, it's still a small budget movie, and it was done really well for what it was. But I still feel like you say, there's a couple of points you could have done better, generally. But yeah, like you say, it didn't blow me away, but I really like the concept, and I really like the world it's set in. So yeah, it's been given a 7.2. Is where it lands on my scale.
Fan dabby dozy.
Yeah, so cool. That's us done. Code 8, and as Stuart pointed out to me before we started recording this podcast, unlike he led me to believe last week. Last week he said, it was like, yeah, so you've got 2 movies left to pick. I'm like, no bother, I've got 2 in my head. He's now told me, oh, by the way, I lied last week. That was your last one.
I didn't lie. I miscalculated.
So I only had one. So that was it. So you're not going to get to know what my final one was. You never know. We might, if the cinema's going back into lockdown, or if there's a week there's nothing out, we might venture back into it. But as it stands, that was my last choice. So what we're gonna do is find out what Stuart's last choice is.
Well, I feel like I've done you dirty here.
I hope you haven't.
So no. So my last choice is to give you your last choice.
Oh,
I do have a film in case, like, but I feel like that because I've done you dirty here, then I feel like that you should get to I should let you have it because you had
how
2
kind.
films. I've literally just picked one about an hour ago.
How kind of you.
Yep, there you go. So I can tell you what I was gonna pick.
What were you gonna pick?
Here's
what you could have won. Man. What one?
Yeah, I was gonna pick The Invisible Man.
I own that. I've not seen it yet, but yeah, that could have been all right. However, What?
However, I'm sacrificing.
He sacrificed
I'm officially passing the crown.
He's passed it to me. It all hinges on what I pick next. And what I am picking, I think Stuart does know what I'm going to pick.
I think I do know. Can I say it?
If you like.
Okay. What you have picked for me this week, or the last week of our series, is John Wick.
Swiss Army Man. No.
I've seen Swiss Army Man.
I'm only joking. Yeah, you're right. It's John Wick. We're doing John Wick. Which I'm excited about. I'm so excited. Yeah. It's such a blooming good movie.
I have a friend in Carlisle who'll be doesn't live in Carlisle, who was at uni with me in Carlisle, who'll be very pleased at this pick, because I watched him in the cinema. I never seen it when it was out, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, you need to see it." So there you go.
You know,
what can I watch it on?
I will double check that.
Can I watch it on anything?
In fact, I'll check that right now. It's either available on something, or I'll let you borrow it if it isn't. But I believe it is.
Because I was about to say I might need it for the weekend and before I go back to work. Then, because obviously I watch a lot of these at work.
Let me have a quick look.
So after a check, what is it, Martin? Do you think that you need to give me it? Is it on a streaming service?
No.
Do you need to give me the DVD? Yeah?
I'd need to give you it on DVD, unless you have a VPN, because it's on Netflix in America, but not here. So
no, I don't have a VPN.
So yeah, I will.
If a VPN company would like to sponsor us, then get in touch.
Thanks, guys. So yeah, we will watch that. That'll be the next podcast. I'm excited about it. I think you'll, at the very least, think there's some memeable moments, or just
at the very least, you'll find it tolerable.
Yeah. And I really hope you enjoy it, because there's obviously 2 sequels, and they're making another 2 more after it. So I hope you get into it.
I know. Can you imagine if I don't, and then I have to go and watch all these sequels?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So for me, we'll obviously talk about it next week, but for me, this was Keanu Reeves getting back to his best after The Matrix. So here we go. Right. So we're finishing up. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Stuart?
Yes. Remember to follow us on all social medias. You can find them on the link tree in the show notes. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
Remember
got it right
for the first time. Yep. In the show notes, give us a follow. But yeah, no shout outs this week because I'm a tired boy. Shout out to Sleep. That's this week's shout out.
There you go. Thank you, Sleep, for coming into Stuart's life.
And I can't wait for my next sleep, which will be at 7 o'clock. No, it won't. It'll be about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Oh, is this you just up going to work tonight?
Yeah. So I literally woke up, I woke up at about 7 o'clock, had a wash, and then
that's not like you.
And then jumped on this podcast. So I will be going to Sainsbury's, getting my night shift meals. Well, I say meal, and some bits and bobs, and then then I'll be working until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then home, off for a few days, and then loving life.
Good stuff.
So that's me.
Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate every single one of you who listen, who download. You mean so much to us. Your support means the world. So we're gonna sign off now, and we will catch you next week for John Wick, and that's the last one we will be doing from our choices before we get to review things from the cinema.
The last one ever. Oh wait, what? We're continuing this on? Oh, okay.
Could you imagine if you just turned around at this point and went, "Yeah, I'm out"? I'm out. I'd be blooming raging. As I said, if that was the case, I'd be putting out a casting call for anyone called Stuart who could do.
Yeah.
Right.
And it has to be EW.
Yeah, it has to be spelled EW, and if not, you need to change the name on a legal document.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
that's us.
Let's get out of here. See you later.
Thank you for having us. Good night, everyone.